Hey, what's up guys, Crazy here, back into Borderlands 3 with an updated build for Amara level 57 using the newly added Anarchy shotgun. If you watched my previous flag build using the same shotgun from the new Guns, Love and Tentacles DLC, you probably already know that I'm pretty much in love with this gun right here. It's definitely one of the highest damage dealers currently in the game. Its snowball during the fights is absolutely crazy, and if you couple it with a few key items, but even better with Amara's Ricochet build using the indiscriminate passive ability, you can make this thing even crazier than it's been before, since you will be able to spread all of that damage all around the room and all around the enemies. So really exciting build, let's jump into it, and as always a thumbs up on this video would be super awesome. But I'm gonna start things off with the items, the guns and some of the things that you should keep in mind. Of course, the core pieces right here are going to be the Anarchy shotgun and of course the Pearl of Ineffable Knowledge, both from the new DLC, and both of these will make you snowball through the fights as you kill more targets and of course as you hit more pallets onto them, up to like 500% damage increase just from these passives alone, from these two items, excluding everything else. Now, since this is kind of like the recursion slash ricochet build using the indiscriminate passive, yes, there's still room for the recursion shotgun over here, and as a matter of fact I'm still kinda using this, though only 1% of the time. And the reason for that is because now I don't have to rely on the recursion projectiles to ricochet from the enemy, even though that does its own, damage, is really good. But I just found the Anarchy being much better at doing that for two reasons. First, because it has 15 pallets, which means the damage, well, is gonna increase by a ton. And second of all, because it takes more advantage of the indiscriminate passive and that ricochet chance over there. So it's normally only 30% chance. So this means if you had only one projectile, it's 30% chance, and that's pretty much it. But with the Anarchy, it's 15 pallets, so in this case you're gonna be doing that almost all the time. Not really 100%, but definitely way higher than 30%. So in this case I got the Anarchy times 15, unfortunately not times 20. It's still a good one, and for those who are out there who are looking for a good Anarchy and want this specimen right here, leave a comment down below with your username on Steam or Epic Game Store, and I'm gonna pick a winner and give this to whatever person ends up getting it. But yeah, only have to be subscribed to my channel in order to get it. Otherwise, I'm also using the Lob and the Cutsman, mostly against the Melee 1 takedown, and to be more specific, against Wotan. The Lob, of course, goes against his shields in the second phase, and finally the Cutsman in the last phase, since it's such a powerful SMG, and I also got lucky enough to get one with corrosive damage. Now, as far as the class mod, the artifacts, the shields, I'm using the spiritual driver like 99% of the time. You're combining this with mindfulness to increase your speed to crazy levels, and this is also going to increase your gun damage, so you're kind of like, running all over the place, dealing a ton of damage and trying to aim those hits. As far as the shields go, I'm normally using the Transformer. Normally, if I weren't using the Anarchy, I would probably go for the newly added Old God shield that was added also in the new DLC. In this case, if you get something like a shock one, it increases your shock damage and also resistance to that elemental. But unfortunately, it doesn't couple that well with my Anarchy, and the reason for that is basically this. Yeah. As you can see, it's pretty much destroying me right now, and I'm gonna be dying in seconds if I'm not being careful, so I do have to go with the Transformer and become immune to my own damage. This is the reason why I am using the Transformer still. And outside of this, of course, we also have a random grenade. The only reason I'm using it is for the bonus cryo damage. It helps me slow the targets, it helps me, just freezing them, and if there's any enemy that is immune to both shock and or cryo, I can just switch it to something that deals incendiary, maybe corrosive, maybe something else. I can just switch all of these around. Now, as far as the build goes, as I was saying, the red tree is the most important, and there's a few skills over here that are really mandatory. So Anima, Tempest, as well as Wildfire help me with the elemental damage, status damage, as well as its effect and spread. So Anima increases status effect and damage. Also, the Tempest increases elemental damage and shock damage, which by the way I'm doing a ton of. And finally Wildfire just to spread all of that. I've also added 3 points into Steady Hands to just have more accuracy and handling. The Dread ability isn't like 100% 100% necessary, and as a matter of fact you don't even normally need it for a recursion build because you're basically avoiding grasping enemies. But in this case I've added it for two reasons. First, to climb down the tree, and second because, as I was saying, there's still room to actually use a Phaserker in the class mod category in certain fights that might require you to stay still. Maybe there's a platform that you might fall off if you're too fast, so you might want to cast grasp on the enemies, keep them still, and not have to worry about falling off the platform. So this is mostly for the Valkyrie fight that I've done, but there's other places in there as well that can benefit from this. From here on, there's three very important passives. Of course, we also have the Deep Well, just increases magazine size, nothing to explain here. Indiscriminate is the very core feature, the very core passive ability that you're going to absolutely need. Again, ricochets everything, well, almost everything, and it deals a ton of damage. It helps you with that quite a bit. Now for Sustainment, I've invested 5 points into it, though I'm not really sure that is needed, especially for this build. You're gonna be reaching 3 million plus damage per pallet with the Anarchy, and I don't think you need more than 10% heal when you can deal 3 million damage, especially on my Amara where I have no more than 40,000 HP, so more than enough to fully heal me even in one pallet. Nonetheless, for the time being I've left it like this, and the final one is Forceful Expression for the 18% damage to elemental, so that's what I rolled with. In the green tree, just a few here and there to actually increase my bonus damage, to kinda increase my health regeneration, but most important are Helping Hands and Mindfulness. Especially Mindfulness, this is what works with the driver, and Mindfulness is going to increase your speed as you're taking more and more of that damage. Finally, the blue tree is also a little bit invested into reload speed and a little bit of critical damage and accuracy, so Fast Hands for reload speed, Violent Tapestry so that it works with Alacrity, and finally I also went with Transcendent, that increases accuracy but even more so the critical hit damage. And this is basically the build right here. Now there's a few things that I want to clear up with this build, and I also want to go over some of the damage numbers that this build can pull. And even though it's not gonna be on the target as big as it was with the Flak crit build that pulled like 12 million damage, it's still a very good build, and it's probably better at clearing enemies than the Flak crit build. So in this case you're gonna be using this, well, really easily. You're gonna be running into combat, you're gonna aim at the ground as always, cast the grasp so that you apply all of that buff to yourself, and then just get close to the enemy and shoot to deal as much damage as possible. And because you're shooting so many pallets with the Anarchy, there's a really high chance to actually spread them to the rest of the enemies. Now in terms of actual damage numbers, here is how this build does. So against the target dummy, it actually deals about 200,000 damage at base, up to 300,000, and as you stack more and more of these Anarchy stacks, eventually you're gonna reach up to 800, 900 or even 1 million damage. And if you fully buff your character using the grasp ability, you're gonna see, well, pretty much double of that, up to 3 million in this case. But you have to keep in mind that all of these pallets have a chance to ricochet onto the enemy with a 50% damage reduction. Anyway, on a final note, I also want to cover a very exceptional situation in which you can actually down yourself if you're not being careful, especially after stacking a ton of damage. So let's just go over a test over here again with the shotgun, and let's just fully buff our elemental damage. As you can see, I'm full shock damage on pretty much everything. So eventually you will see me actually being damaged by shock despite normally being fully resistant to shock. So I'm not really sure exactly why that is the case. Shock shouldn't be able to damage me, but as you can see in this case, it's not only able to damage me, but it can also down me. So I'm not really sure why that's the case. The transformer should be more than able to actually absorb all the shock damage. That's how it's supposed to work. So I'm pretty sure that in this case, somehow this action skill and 50% bonus shock damage, this bonus shock damage from here kind of bypasses the shield, the transformer, and it somehow kills me, though I'm not really sure why that is the case. So that's why in some of the footage you will see me avoiding those projectiles from the Anarchy shotgun. especially once reaching the full stacks of damage, because this can also down me. Anyway, this is it with the build. Again, if you want this Anarchy right here, just leave a comment down below with your username on Epic Games Store or Steam, and I'm gonna give it to a lucky winner. You just have to be subscribed to my channel in order to get it. In the meantime, if you enjoyed this video, don't forget to comment, like, and subscribe. Thank you so much for watching, and peace.